The Denver Broncos are a disaster, or are they? Let me explain. When the Broncos hired Sean Payton to an $18 million a year figure, which makes him the second highest paid coach not in the NFL but in all of American sports, it was a turnaround after a disastrous season last year under first-year head coach Nathaniel Hackett. One of the reasons Sean Payton was brought in was because of his offensive guru with the Saints and what him and Drew Brees did and what the magic that the Denver was trying to recreate with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was given a monster deal to complete the trade to Denver from Seattle, 5-year, $245 million. It's been well documented, and everyone thought this roster just needed that star franchise quarterback, as everyone always looked at Denver as having a great roster but missing the quarterback, and everyone thought Russell Wilson was going to be that franchise-altering quarterback that Denver would get, like they did with Peyton Manning in the early 2010s. And while it hasn't been perfect, Russell Wilson has played better than he did last year. While yes isn't saying much, he's not making some of the same mistakes he did last year. He's not the same old Russ, but it is fixable and is doable. But the Denver Broncos are doing something that I don't think a lot of people are realizing. Let me explain. When Sean Payton was out of coaching work for Fox Sports 1, and he had something to say about a particular quarterback in this upcoming draft class on Colin Cowherd's show, The Herd.
He remind you of, and we're not putting that pressure on Caleb saying, oh, you're going to be the next Mahomes.
That's Sean Payton talking about star quarterback for USC, Caleb Williams, and how he thinks teams could tank for him. I bring this up to say the Broncos are now 1-5, and already reports that they are open for business and looking to trade some of their players. Some of the name, if you would be Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, who they think they could get some key draft assets back for. And they also have an out in Russell Wilson's contract after 3 seasons. While, yes, Russ's contract is not a good one at the moment, that out is key because if the Broncos somehow are quote-unquote tanking, they can get that number 1 pick and get Caleb Williams. And then the question becomes, do you sit Caleb Williams or do you try to figure something out with Russ? I don't think we've ever seen a situation like this in the NFL. The Broncos traded for Russell Wilson, paid him a ton of money, and it's just after a year and a quarter, just not looked to be the ideal marriage. Well, no, all the Broncos' faults are not Russell Wilson's problem. You would imagine Sean Payton would like a clean slate with a young quarterback that he could mold. It was also no secret that Sean Payton really wanted the Chargers job because of how he views Justin Herbert. And I hate making comparisons, but there's a quarterback also in this draft class that reminds a lot of people of a Justin Herbert. And that quarterback would be North Carolina's star quarterback, Drake May. Drake May has a strong arm and can put the ball anywhere, and he's also mobile as well, and I think it's an overlooked part of his game. I bring this up to say, don't be surprised if the Broncos are in that top 2, top 3 pick selection, and there's a quarterback called, which then begs the question, what do you do with Russell Wilson and his contract? The NFL isn't like the NBA where you could just cut your losses. In a salary cap league, you kind of got to make your bed and live in it. Now, Sean Payton does come from the Saints, where they would just go over the cap and then restructure to get under it. But with this large of a contract, I don't know what you do. There's going to be really no trade market for Russell Wilson, even though the saying is there's no untradeable contract. I think this Russell Wilson contract is about as untradeable as it does get. If Russell Wilson does start to look better down the stretch, then, and the Broncos are still losing, then the Broncos could either take their next franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams or Drake May, depending on where they're drafted, or Sean Payton is actually bought into the idea of fixing Russell Wilson, turning it around with Russell Wilson, and either trading back in the draft to pick up more draft assets, or just taking one of the star-studded receivers, specifically Marvin Harrison Jr. If you're going to end up trading Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, and Russell Wilson does start to look good and turn around down the stretch, maybe that's the direction the Broncos do go in, and they don't go looking for their next franchise quarterback under Sean Payton. The Broncos are in a very tricky situation because when you traded for Russ, as I've already stated, everyone thought he was their just missing piece and he was going to be their quarterback that changed them and turned them around, kind of like he did in Seattle. While, yes, Seattle did have a dominant defense, a historic defense to be more accurate, Denver has the pieces, they have the names, but for whatever reason, it just hasn't accumulated to many wins. Last year, they had a great defense and just couldn't score. And this year just looks to be more of the same, where, like you've seen against the Kansas City Chiefs, their offense couldn't do nothing. But then you see in a game against the Bears where they come back and the Bears blow that game. Or you see what they do in Miami and their defense goes up 70 points. The Denver Broncos have a decision to make. Do you just put a ton of talent around Russ and hopefully that talent can get you to a Super Bowl in a loaded AFC? Or do you kind of just got to cut your losses in some way that we have never seen before in the NFL and hope to get one of these young stud quarterbacks that are coming out this year? And what makes this so interesting is that Greg Penner, the Broncos' new owner, is one of the richest owners in American sports. And with Sean Payton alluding to teams tanking, could we see the Broncos start to tank, or have they already started to tank? With the Denver Nuggets recently winning an NBA championship and the Colorado Avalanche recently winning the NHL Stanley Cup Finals, you don't want to be alongside the Rockies and just be the laughingstock of the pro sports in Denver, Colorado. I think after the NFL trade deadline, Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy will both be on other teams, with Denver recouping some draft assets that they traded away for the Russell Wilson trade. And depending how the season looks, there may be a new signal caller coming to the Denver Broncos. As always, thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. And let me know down in the comments, do you think it's more likely that Sean Payton thinks he can help turn around Russell Wilson, or do you think that he wants his new signal caller to mold in Denver?